Hello and welcome to a new Q&A here on the channel in weird times in not just the aviation world but all over the world. Obviously we let our beards and our hair grow as we can't go to the barber shop. I hope everyone is all right. I hope you are staying home and safe and are washing your hands as we are all being told all the time. I've asked you to ask me questions on Instagram and on the community tab on the YouTube channel, and you have been so kind to leave a bunch of them, so we will try to get through as many as possible. Some of them are kind of repeating, and if they are too repetitive I will simply refer you to the last Q&A we did. I will leave the link to that in the description below so that you can get your questions answered there if I don't answer them in this video. To begin with, I'd like to answer a question that actually was asked in the last Q&A, but that I totally forgot to answer. It came from Dodge Aviation, who asked, do you get the models from Harper Wings or do you buy them yourself? And I understand that maybe some might think that I get models from Harper Wings or from other manufacturers due to the amount that I have, but that's not the case. Anything you see on this channel is paid for by myself and no one else. I don't have any companies or anyone else behind that is financing it. If there should ever be content or anything that is paid for by others, I would always let you know. It will always be clearly indicated in the videos, but so far everything 100% independent. All right, but now to the questions that you have asked to me in the last couple of days on Instagram and on the community tab. And we start off on Instagram with _Oscar_, who asked your opinion on what Harper models need to be released, for example EasyJet. And yeah, we talked a little bit about it in the last Q&A. EasyJet for sure, they definitely need to make that. Ryanair is an obvious one as well. Many of the low-cost carriers, not just in Europe but also in North America or even South America, that we just don't get any models of in scale 500 at least. I mean, if I think about the aviation market in South America, how dynamic that is and how many new airlines have popped up over the last couple of decades. Many of them have disappeared again, but we just never get any models of them, so we wouldn't even have the chance to make any recreations or just have some form of a collection of them. That would be quite cool, I think. Then timspotter.hh asks, are you sure you have counted all your models? Let's better count them again. I have the feeling there might be more asking for how many models I have now. Let's see. Aviation Dodge Official asks, how often do you buy new models outside of the Corona break, which obviously affects all of us. I don't have a particular, it's not that I'm buying every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or whatever. I buy if there's something new on the market that I find interesting. I do obviously sometimes buy models that I just think could make a good review, but most of the time the highest priority when I buy models is, do I like the model? Do I think I can use it for something other than a review? For example, could I also use it in an airport update or something like that? If these criteria are there, then I buy, and I try to buy in bulk, and that's because I don't have a physical store anywhere near me. I always recommend, when people ask where do you buy your models, I always recommend find a local store. I mean, other than it's nice to support your local stores, you also have the chance to actually have a feel of the aircraft. You can take a look at it yourself and you can see if there are any defects or anything. You don't have that option if you buy online. But as I don't have a shop anywhere near me, I can only buy online. So there are some shipping costs. They're not too great, but there are shipping costs. So I try to buy in bulk because that obviously reduces the shipping cost per model. Then Quado, I think it's pronounced, I hope I haven't butchered that too much, asks, what do you think are going to be the most affected by coronavirus? Obviously in the aviation industry it will be smaller airlines, all those who haven't been doing good business, so to say. So everyone who hasn't had, anyone who isn't a legacy carrier. And even there, I mean, Alitalia is obviously doomed, but they've been that long time before. An airline group like Lufthansa will get through it. They will need help, but they will get through it. But they have had decades upon decades to basically be able to collect so much money that they can survive. Any other airlines will be in massive danger. And we know that because when airlines the size of Lufthansa need money from the state, sure, it might just be a cash flow issue, but if they need money from the state, when we see that the big legacy carriers in North America, when they need help, then you know that it is really, really difficult. And I mean, in worst case scenario, the big airlines, they can sell their aircraft because they own them most of the time. Many smaller airlines, they don't own the aircraft anymore. Most of them would have sold them already, so they're leasing them. So they have nothing. They have nothing. They don't own anything. They can't sell off anything to get cash, which is what all of them need now. It's a cash flow issue. And when we get out of this crisis at some point, things can go in many ways, and it's too early to say, but some say that things will return to normal very quickly, and for example, everything will be as before, but I think that's unlikely. I think what we more likely will see is that many airlines will get through this now because they get help, but then a few months after they will go bust. We will see a massive reduction in fleet size because passenger numbers won't return from one day to the other as they were before this. So there will be overcapacity in the market, and that any capacity that is left will be eaten up by the big airlines, and they will have to cut down on their fleet sizes, and smaller airlines will just run out of passengers to fly around. So with any crisis, whether it is now with Corona, whether it's specific for the aviation industry or just in general, any crisis always hits the weakest the hardest. And that's, I guess, life. I think that's also why it's so important right now when we are looking at countries trying to support business, that you need to have resources for small businesses. The big ones, yes, they're important to keep them alive because the sheer numbers of workers that would lose their job if the big business fails are enormous, and we can't afford that. But the big businesses, they still can get through this. Small business cannot without help. So with everything, those who were weakest before all this started will also be the one weakest getting through this, and some of them will not get through this. Björn's Plane World asks, what is your favorite 1 to 500 scale model? I think we've also talked about that last time. It's really difficult to pick. I think right now my favorite model is the Herpa Wings model of a Lufthansa RJ85, an Avro RJ85. And that's just because I've been looking for this model for a long time, and luckily I found it last year with the help of a good friend. It's in no way perfect, but I always have loved the small Jumbolinos, and I love the models of them, and having a Jumbolino in full Lufthansa insignia and colors, that's just something I like, but there's no rationality behind that. Dylan Minute asks, what can we expect for Cardiff Season 2? Well, for those of you who are following the channel know that I've made this little series called Cardiff. We finished Season 1 a couple of weeks ago, and obviously we finished on a cliffhanger, on a bang, with this crash of an A321 of Spanair, obviously fictional. But what can you expect for Season 2? Well, obviously we'll pick up on that storyline. If you have followed the season closely, and especially the news sections, I have dropped small hints throughout the season to the event of the final episode. By the way, spoilers if you haven't seen it. But I've dropped small hints to what happens in the final episode of season 1. And that storyline will continue in season 2. But obviously there will be many other things happening in season 2. We've seen the withdrawal of Buzz, and we already know that EasyJet Go will close down operations at the airport. So obviously the traffic at the airport will change quite a lot, because 2 of the largest airlines at the airport are gone or will be going in season 2. So the airport needs to find new business, and that's a major storyline in season 2. I don't think I can say much more because I still need to write the scripts, but those are the ideas I have had when I started this whole project. And yeah, there might be a few other surprises here and there, but I don't know yet. Harrison Airport asks, just how are you? I'm fine. I hope you're fine too. Fly Liverpool asks, will you start making custom models? Very good question. I really should, because obviously, as we all know, there are models that we just can't get. I have had plenty of people offering good advice as to how to do so, links where you can get stuff to do it. I really should, but I haven't done so yet. One day probably. Liverpool, or Fly Liverpool also asks when Munich City Airport will be back, and we talked about that extensively in the last Q&A, so I will refer you to that. Wings of Boston asks, where does the name BongoPlanes come from? Well, the second half of the name is, I think, quite easy to figure out. The first part, Bongo, is a nickname. I think it was my mother who used that name for me before I was born even, and it's nothing else than that. It's just my nickname. Palm Air Boo, I'm really not good with these names. Palm Air Boo asks, how do you make your airports so realistic? Well, thank you if you think they're realistic. I think it's just a lot of preparation. So looking at real airports, Google is a magnificent tool for that, because you can just use Google Maps and take a look at lots of details in real airports. Obviously, there are also some really good channels, especially on Instagram. It was UK Aviation and LC Aviation. I will leave the links in the description below. They do some magnificent work, really incredible work, far better than I could ever do. I think the biggest challenge is when you're making a model airport is not to make it look new. I mean, if you're making, for example, if you're building a taxiway or an apron, it's super easy to make that look like it was built yesterday. But most taxiways and aprons aren't. And I think the realism comes in when you try to emulate what you see in real world. So there are defects in the tarmac and stuff like that. And I think when you add these details in your model making, that's when it starts looking more realistic. So inspiration from others, look at the real world and try to make it look old. I think that's my advice. JMC485, how many models do you have now? Finn Aviation, of what materials have you done your terminal? For the terminals that I've built myself, it's mainly cardboard really. Thick paper, cardboard. I know some people, for example, like to use wood or plywood. I'm not a huge fan of that, but that's just because I don't think that I could make cuts that are detailed enough or small enough. But I might just not have the right tools to do it. So yeah, I mainly use cardboard. Global Spotting asks, if you'd have unlimited space and money, which aircraft would you build as a model airport? Go-to would obviously be some of the major hubs in the world, like Frankfurt, London Heathrow, New York JFK. But obviously, yeah, some of the really major hubs would probably be my go-to in that case. Ines Spotter asked, favorite German airline? I mean, there aren't that many anymore. Most of them are dead. I mean, what do we have left now? We have Lufthansa. Germanwings, Eurowings is Lufthansa, so that doesn't count. We have TUI left. Germania is not there anymore. Air Berlin is not there anymore. We have, are they called German Aviation now, or German Airways or something like that? There used to be WDL, but they only fly on behalf of other airlines, so they don't really count. Am I forgetting anyone? I don't think so.
Hey, what happened?
So it would have to be Lufthansa, I guess. You have a difficult name. Liam LMAOLOL. And when will Wide Buddies come to Cardiff? Maybe season 3, definitely season 4. And I don't know if I will make more than 4 seasons of the series, but they will come at some point. Maybe in season 2, but then only as a charter or something like that. Don't expect it in season 2, to be honest. Yeah. So again, JamesC485 with another question. What is your favorite aircraft to fly? As a passenger, I presume, because I don't fly any aircraft myself. But that would be the Airbus A220-100 and 300. And I know my cameraman disagrees on that, but I like the aircraft. Then Western Rocky Mountain, Western Rocky Mountain Airport asks, would you be up for a possible collaboration between our airports in the future? If you ask in theory, then yes. In practical terms, I don't know. I've had a few requests now and then, and most of the times I honestly turn them down. Some of them I say, sure, we can look into that. It's nothing I do like on a regular basis. And that's mainly just because I don't have my airport set up normally. I only set it up when I do recordings. So basically any form of collaboration would need to fit into that time frame. And that's not because I don't want to do a collaboration, but that's because I'm more concerned that if we kind of made a collaboration that I wouldn't be able to live up to my side of the deal, because I couldn't on short notice take some pictures or do some stuff because the airport is not set up. So that's the main reason why I hold off on these kind of things. But in theory, yeah, sure, why not? Liviam V, how many how many planes do you have which are not shown in reviews? Okay, that's a little bit different than the others. Difficult to say because I haven't counted that. I have recorded up to episode 350. I think we are like 340-ish right now that we have released. I've recorded up to 350, I've edited most of them already. And so I have at least 200 that I haven't reviewed yet. Maybe a bit more, but there are a few models that I have twice. Yeah, so roughly around 200 aircraft models that I haven't reviewed yet. Artviation KA asks, 1. How often do you fly on average per year? That we talked about extensively in the last Q&A, so I'll refer you to that. 2. Would you reduce your amount of flights or even give up flying in order to save the planet? For me, that's what he says, for me as an aviation lover, it is really hard to do so. And I would agree on that.
Highly political answer coming up. Feel free to agree or disagree. Feel free to state your opinion in the comment section below, but don't be a dick, especially you, Kevin.
The life that I'm used to would be difficult without flying. I have family abroad. That would be difficult. It would not be impossible to visit them, but then I would need to take a car, which is also not great. I have friends all over Europe, and that would be impossible for me to visit if I would not fly, and I would not give that up. I honestly don't think that it is entirely my or our responsibility to save the world. There are funny people that we call politicians, that we vote into office to take care of certain things in society. And that's kind of what they're supposed to do. And two, I think aviation has a really bad image when it comes to the whole climate debate. And it's not really fair in my opinion. Yes, the aviation industry does contribute to global warming. Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. But in the same way, there aren't any other transportation industries that contribute that much in improving themselves than the aviation industry. Sure, that might not be motivated by climate change, but simply by economics. Because what is one of the biggest costs for any airline? It's fuel. So if you can reduce the amount of fuel you're using, you will reduce your costs and gain an advantage in the market. The side benefit of that is that you reduce your carbon footprint. And every airline is doing that. Every aircraft manufacturer is constantly improving on their aircraft to minimize the amount of fuel that they need to use. And there isn't any other industry, at least any transport industry, that does that to that amount. This is obviously highly political, and I always try to avoid politics on this channel. And I don't think there's anything I could say will be acceptable for everybody. That's for sure. And there will be some that think what I'm saying is totally out of order, and there will be some who might agree to some degree or not. I can obviously think, okay, do I really need to take the 30th flight this year just to fly? No, I don't. So I could leave that away. But I will never cut away flights that I need so that I can have the life that I'm used to having and that I like to have. Yeah. So if I'm a bad person for that, I will be a bad person for that. But I think there are other ways to solve this issue, to be honest. Fluchti JR, so Junior I guess, asks, what was the most exciting flight you were ever on? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think an exciting flight that I was looking forward to and that I probably won't be taking now because I assume it will be cancelled at any time, was a flight that I'm supposed to take in May, which would have been from my hometown here in Denmark to Edinburgh. And that would have been with an airline that I hadn't flown on before, with Logan Air, and it would be an inaugural flight, which I believe I've only been on once, and there I was a newborn, so I have no memory of it. And that would have been really cool to experience. It hasn't been cancelled yet, but I think it is unrealistic to assume that it will happen. Burn International asks, do you have a favorite video on your YouTube channel? One is the behind the scenes of Cardiff, because it was a fun process to do the video. It's a bit different than the videos that I otherwise have on my channel, and it showed a lot of the processes behind making videos. So I enjoyed making that video, and I think it turned out quite all right. Another video that I quite liked, I will leave a link. I will need to leave a lot of links here in the description below. I will also leave a link to that video in the description below, and to the next video, especially because I don't remember what it was called. But it was kind of, it was a trip that I did to Stuttgart. So if you want to see the first time, I think it was the first time I showed my face on the channel, that was the video where I spent a day with a 737 simulator. Again, a really difficult name. Yuria Ann Piles? You guys need to have easier names. You're making it really difficult, but you have a great question. Not that your name is not great, but I can't pronounce it. Your question was, what's your opinion about airlines getting rid of their 747s because of the coronavirus? Sure, I could say it's sad, but honestly speaking, the industry right now is simply fighting for its life. No stone can be left unturned right now. And if it saves an airline like KLM, which has been flying for more than 100 years, if they get rid of their 747s, then I would say that's a very small price to pay. CAF Production asks, which 1 to 200 scale plane models do you have? That, by the way, is not mine. My cameraman for the day has borrowed me this very kindly. I also made a review of that a couple of years back, but it's not mine. The only scale 200 model I have right now is A350 of Finnair, which you can see on the desk in my last Q&A. And I also made a review of that. Bonapisu asks, what airports do you want to build? I mean, we talked about if you had unlimited funds. One airport that I've always wanted to build, or I've wanted to build for years, is Billund here in Denmark. But so far I haven't gotten around to it, and I'm not planning on doing it anytime soon, but that could be fun to try to make a replica of that. Xabi Models has a bunch of questions. I think we've answered some of them. What is your favorite plane? We've talked about that. What do you with all your models after unboxing them? We've actually also talked about that in the last Q&A. Finally, what is your favorite model? And we've also talked about that. How about that? But great questions anyway. Infinitely Airborne asks, how many models do you currently have? Okay, luckily I don't need to count them all because I have actually kept track of it this time. So last time we had 592 and right now I have 603. So that's the big number, 603, that's what I currently have. I might have 1 or 2 coming soon, but 603 right now. Then the airplane channel. When will the next airport update be? I originally wanted to start up Philadelphia now, but that has kind of been ruined by current events. Given that I want to try to make somewhat realistic scenarios when I do these airport updates, right now it's obviously very difficult. I have, however, one idea that I want to do. And if things are not changing completely within the next 1.5 weeks, I will probably try to do one. I'm not promising anything. It really depends on how things are going. I could obviously just make a completely fictional episode where everything is as it was before all this started, but it wouldn't really fit in with all the other videos I've done in the series. So I don't think I will do that. I have one idea, I will try to do that. We will see. And then Michael Go, do you have any plans to travel to Ireland? And do you have any British Airways wide-body models apart from the A350-1000? I don't have any immediate travel plans to go to Ireland, and especially obviously not now. Who knows in the future. At some point obviously I would like to go at least to Dublin, that could be fun, but I have no immediate plans. And the question about the British Airways aircraft models, yes I do actually. I have a 747, it's an old generation model, a 747 with the Scotland tail. I actually also have done a review of that. And then as you say, the A350-1000, and I actually recently got another 747 from British Airways in the One World livery, and I have already recorded that review and it will come out I think as review 348. If I'm not mistaken. So very soon. All right, so the very last question comes from Miniature Airports, who is simply asking about my spotting equipment. I have a few cameras. So for example, this is a GoPro Hero Black 6, which I got a few years back. I also have a 4, but I'm not really using that anymore because obviously the 6 was an improvement, not by much, honestly speaking, but a bit. It has image stabilization, which is a huge improvement. So that I use for trip reports. And that I do then in combination with a little gimbal, which I have here. Very inexpensive. It's a Rollei. which is a quite old brand. I think they're mainly used to make lights, but they also started using some other stuff. It's a Steady Butler Action, and they have made that for action cameras and for smartphones. As I say, quite inexpensive, but it just helps a lot when you are moving around. The image stabilization of a GoPro is okay, but it helps to add a gimbal. And then we have the backbone of this entire channel, which is my trusted Canon 60D. And I needed to look at that because I can never remember if it's D60 or 60D. It's a 60D. I've had it for many years now. I will probably soon replace it, at least as my main camera. But this has served me very well. The only thing I have had a little issue with this camera is that it seems to be quite prone to collect dirt on the sensor, which is annoying. But other than that, it has been a really good camera for me. It is literally the backbone of this channel, pretty much, except for the trip reports, but pretty much every other video you see, whether it is spotting or it is a review, airport updates, you name it, this thing has made it. This one has filmed it, and mainly with this lens that I have here, which is a Sigma 18 to 250 millimeter zoom lens. And then I am using this one. I have been using bigger tripods in the past, which I also like. But obviously, most of the time when I'm doing spotting, I'm traveling, and this is really perfect because it just has the right size. It gives a decent height. It has the right size to take it with you as hand luggage without any issues. I've never had any issues traveling with this. It's a Manfrotto 190 Go. That's the legs, and then this is a fluid head from Manfrotto. I will leave links to Manfrotto's homepage for the head and for the legs if I find it, so you can check it out yourself. There are other heads as well, but they then start to get bigger, and then it doesn't really work with the legs and so on. But I've been using this now for a couple of years, and it has never let me down. That's really the main equipment that I'm using. Once in a while I've had the opportunity to use other stuff. The camera we are filming with right now, which my cameraman was so kind to bring along, is a Nikon D500, which is also a very nice camera. I've used a couple of times for spotting. The camera that I'm currently looking at to possibly replace my trusted friend with here is a Canon XF405, but I'm, as always, still a little bit undecided, but I think this is the camera we'll go for. All right, guys, I'm fairly sure that I have recorded for ages now, and I need to cut it down so it is an acceptable length. So it is time to end this video. Thank you so much for having sent in your questions. I do very much appreciate that, and of course your ongoing support here on the channel is amazing. And at some point in the future we'll make another Q&A. Hopefully the world has returned to somewhat normal by then. In any case, take care of yourselves. Follow the instructions by the authorities. It is really important that we all do our part. Stay home, stay safe, and wash your hands. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.